Welcome all to another How Did This Happen? In this episode we're going to go over one of the most unlucky and interesting fights I've done in a Nuzlocke, and that was once again in my Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke versus none other than Crasher Wake. Wake has never been a gym leader that I've been scared of. In a casual playthrough he is hilariously easy to beat, and as such I underestimated his team heavily. The only thing I was really worried about was his Gyarados, but I had an Alakazam with Shockwave which nearly one-shot it in every case, so even then I was more trying to just prepare for the rest of his team after Gyarados was down. With the before mentioned Alakazam with Shockwave, Roselia for his Quagsire, and Gallade with Leaf Blade, along with a good support in Dr. Congo the Togetic, Gastrodon is a pretty tanky wall that could be used to pivot if needed, and Crobat to snipe any of his Pokemon living on low health with its insane speed. I really thought there was basically no way this fight could go wrong. Given that the calcs showed that Shockwave did about 85 to 97%, I decided to lead with Reflect with Alakazam. That would allow me to tank a bite much better and then one-shot the next turn, having 4 turns of Reflect up as Floatzel comes out. You might be wondering why I'm assuming it would one-shot if the calcs showed it did 97% at the most, and that's because I do my calcs with all their IVs maxed out, so I don't get any nasty surprises when something just barely doesn't one-shot when I expected it to, due to some IVs being higher than anticipated. So either I don't one-shot Gyarados and live 2 bites if he has max special defense IVs, or I do one-shot Gyarados and the plan continues as normal. Turn 1, Reflect goes up and Gyarados goes for bite as expected. After Reflect this should do around 40%, or it'll crit immediately and Alakazam goes down. My plan for this gym in shambles, and all of a sudden I'm feeling a bit less confident. Alakazam was really my only answer to taking out Gyarados in any reasonable amount of time, so now I'm going to have to chip him down, meaning one or more of my Pokemon are going to be too low to fight after. I switch in Dr. Congo, who goes for a Charm to reduce the amount of damage Gyarados can do with its physical moves and essentially lock it into Brine, alternating between Yawn and Wish to heal back to nearly full and getting another couple charms off until he has -6 attack. I then Yawn again after he wakes up and switch in Gallade so he falls asleep on the turn Gallade is switched in, going for a Psycho Cut as he snoozes the first turn. It's going to be a 3-hit KO, but Wake has a Hyper Potion, so this is going to take a while. I go for a Lucky Chant to ensure no crits, and continue chipping away with Psycho Cut, hoping for a crit of my own. Of course I don't, and after a long and grueling few turns, Gyarados is finally down. Now comes out Floatzel on my 19 HP Gallade. After a few calcs, I decide the best choice of action is to swap into Gastrodon and go for a couple body slams to chip Floatzel down. If I get a paralysis, I can bring Roselia in and kill with Giga Drain. If not, Crobat should be healthy enough to tank an Ice Fang and take it out depending on how much HP it has remaining. Okay, we have a few more turns with Slurpee than I thought. I'm gonna go Body Slam, because I need a little bit of damage. Blorbo to one-shot, are you fucking kidding me? Crunch crits and leaves Gastrodon too low to attack again. Naturally, I don't get the para either, so now I'm in a very rough position. Floatzel now outspeeds and nearly one-shots basically all of my Pokemon. I could sack Gastrodon and switch in Roselia, but if Floatzel crits, flinches, or freezes with Ice Fang, I lose. Given the fact I've been crit twice at the most crucial of turns in this fight, I don't trust those things not to happen. At this point, chat was really trying to help me out, so I couldn't let them down. I have to sack Gastrodon or else I just lose, and swap in Dr. Congo. The big question that I asked now was, do I go for Charm or Yawn? Charm makes most of Floatzel's moves into 2-hit KOs rather than 1 for the rest of my team, but Yawn ensures a sleep, which at that much health, 1 free turn with Roselia out, and I would kill with Giga Drain, outspeed and one-shot the Quagsire in the back, and make it out of this fight. However, given the poor luck I've had in this fight, I didn't trust Yawn to sleep Floatzel for more than 1 turn, which I would need to switch in Roselia as there was no way to force it to use another move other than Ice Fang without sacking Gallade as well. So I go for the Charm, and Floatzel is now -2 attack. I switch into Crobat on a Brine and get an idea. If I get Crobat into the yellow, Floatzel's guaranteed to Brine as it sees the kill, and I can switch Roselia in, where I need to dodge a crit, flinch and freeze the next turn, but it was basically my only out at this point. So I fire off a wing attack to lower his health and ensure Giga Drain kills and make the switch, only for him to Ice Fang anyway. The only way I can think that this makes sense is that the AI cannot see the boosted damage of Brine and therefore didn't see the kill, so it was a 50-50 between Brine and Ice Fang as they had damage overlap, and I just got unlucky once again and he picked Ice Fang. This was damning. Roselia was now just under 50%, which means Ice Fang kills on all but around 2 rolls, and the rest of my team are too battered and bruised to take the Floatzel out, let alone the Quagsire in the back. So with hope in my heart, I send out a Giga Drain, praying for a low roll or maybe an Ice Fang miss. I've had that much bad luck in this fight, surely Wake deserves some now. But no, Ice Fang connects and Roselia goes down. I send in Crobat now, thinking if the AI didn't see the kill with Brine, maybe I have 2 turns with Crobat which would be enough to take it out. I used Bite to not bring it into potion range and hopefully get a flinch and buy myself an extra turn, but it was no use. No flinch, and now Floatzel sees the kill and uses Brine. Crobat goes down. With nothing left but 2 Pokemon on less than 20% HP who get outsped, the battle and the run is lost from there. Now I just want to take a moment to be salty there because that RNG was some bullshit. Particularly the Ice Fang into Roselia and the Crunch crit on Gastrodon. I would have been fine had those things not happened, not to mention the turn 1 crit into Alakazam, but the point of this series is to not get angry at things out of my control, it's how to prepare and minimize the risk. So if you have some sort of Nuzlocke sense, you were probably screaming at the screen at the major mistake I was making in that fight, not knowing when to sack Pokemon. It's a hard thing to do, you get attached to your team members and don't want to see them go down, but sometimes it's a necessary evil to ensure the run can continue. There were multiple points where if I used Gallade as a sack, it would switch momentum into my favor and I could have pulled out a victory. But Gallade is one of my favorite Pokemon and I rarely get to use one in a playthrough, and I'd just gotten access to him moments before the gym fight, so I wasn't ready to just let him go already. I could have used Yawn rather than Charm, and on the turn Floatzel would fall asleep, switch into Gallade, which gives me a free switch into Roselia without eating a turn of sleep and allowing me to Giga Drain for the win. But I think the main thing I did wrong here, and the thing that set me on a losing path from the start, was trusting the calcs too much. Since Shockwave said it would only do up to 97% on Gyarados, I didn't bother just going for the one-shot when Gyarados was pretty much the most threatening Pokemon Wake had for me. Sure, Floatzel was the one who swept the remainder of my team, but that was after Gyarados had torn through some of my best answers to it. If my team was full and healthy, Gallade could have easily dealt with Floatzel and the Quagsire in the back. I usually assume worst case scenario because it's usually what happens, but I think it's important in cases like this to just go for it if your gut tells you it'll be okay. Shockwave did 97% if Gyarados had perfect special defense IVs, which is a minuscule chance of happening, and I confirmed that wasn't the case by running the fight back immediately after losing, and indeed Alakazam outsped and one-shot the Gyarados, leaving me in a much better position. I did sack Alakazam and Roselia, but that was because I wasn't really trying to keep my Pokemon alive, just seeing how easy it was to win with Gyarados down immediately. So remember in your Nuzlockes, recognize when you need to sack a Pokemon in order to swing momentum back in your favor. One free switch in can be the difference between winning and having to go back to the start of the game. Thank you so very much for watching up to this point. As I said in the last video, this run is being streamed live on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/funmachine8, along with the Pokemon Ultra Sun randomized soul lock with my friend, aiming for around 4 to 8 PM ADT, but sometimes it's a little earlier. I will work on the schedule. Please subscribe if you liked this video and leave a comment, really helps me know that this is the kind of content I should be making and not go back to the drawing board. I have a few projects already in motion, so look forward to those in the future. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the next one.